have been asked to introduce this fantastic fundraising initiative by Cambridge Wine, Royston and Hint House Testing to raise awareness to much needed funds for our local hospice, the Garden House Hospice Care in Letchworth. Look out for the text to donate number on your screen. Please drink responsibly and have lots of fun enjoying this box just here of delicious gins and tonics. As you can see, I'm too here like that.
Hi there, James here from Foxhole Spirits. I'm the managing director and co-founder. It's really wonderful to be part of this virtual event and for us all together to be raising as much money as possible for the Garden House Hospice Care charity. It's wonderful to be here and talk to you about our amazing product, Hike Gin. I think I'd better start off by telling you a little bit about the brand, about Foxhole Spirits, about what we do, how Hike Gin came to be, and a little bit more about the product. So we started Foxhole Spirits in 2016, but we'd actually been developing our first product, Foxhole Gin, for about 2 years prior to that. My background prior to Foxhole Spirits was in wine production down in Sussex, and my first vintage really noticed that a lot of the juice that's left in the skins after pressing the wine grapes is often just left in the skins and disposed of with the skins themselves. Subsequently learning that about 30% of a vintage is actually left inside the skins and not fully utilized, as it's just not seen as good enough quality to make wine with. There's a bit more tannin, a bit more bitterness. So together with my business partner Sam, who also, very fortunately had been having the same thought process as me at the time, we put our heads together and started collecting up some of this juice that's left in these skins, working with wineries, pressing it out during harvest, fermenting it into a wine, and then distilling this wine into a grape spirit. Now, this grape spirit had loads of flavor. I mean, it's really delicious stuff. But we wanted to do something else with it rather than just release it as a kind of grappa or something like that. The gin market was going kind of leaps and bounds and being super successful. We just wondered really whether we could make a gin out of English wine grapes. Hence, Foxhole Gin was born. So we launched Foxhole Gin in September 2016. It's won lots of awards, which is great, and really kind of proof that you can take a high quality surplus material and make delicious spirits out of it. Through the success of Foxhole Gin, we knew we wanted to make more products, and ultimately our goal is to use up as much surplus material as we possibly can. So around March 2018, we were approached by a company called Richard Hochfeld, who are one of the largest fruit importers in the UK. They import grapes from all around the world, table grapes, the ones you eat, not wine grapes, and they are part of the supply chain into the supermarkets. So the quantity and volume of what they bring in and produce is pretty significant. So they approached us really with a little problem, which was that just kind of naturally through the process of importing the grapes and packaging them into the little plastic punnets, through on the production line, some of the grapes perhaps get bruised or a little bit damaged, but also just some of them aren't quite going to last the amount of time that the consumer expects. In the punnet itself in their house. So a lot of this material is actually perfect at this point. It's really lovely, beautiful stuff. And had seen what we'd done with Foxhole Gin and kind of wondered really whether we could make a delicious gin out of their surplus grapes as well. And so the Hike Gin project was born. It differs a little bit to Foxhole Gin because the being table grapes, they've got a little bit more water content to them. But what that gives us is this incredible consistency, because there's such kind of strict regulations when it comes to food and grapes. Every single time we're able to press, ferment, and distill some of these grapes, there's this amazing consistency of flavor. So lots of kind of citrus notes in the grape spirit, real kind of richness and texture. It's really kind of beautiful stuff. So we designed a botanical recipe to really support those natural characteristics for Hike. And a lot of the kind of inspiration of the branding came from the destinations of all those countries where those grapes came from. So we have these beautiful colors, the green and the blue, which represent the kind of earth and the journey that the grapes have made to get to this single bottle. The graphic itself is inspired by an African fabric that we found, because a lot of the grapes are sourced from South Africa. And essentially, it's a really interesting process where we take grapes that are collected, these surplus grapes, we take them to a winery that we work with over in Kent. We squash the grapes and squeeze as much of the juice as we possibly can out of them. I mean, we press them so they're super, super dry, just to get as much kind of liquid material as we can out of them. We then ferment that into a wine, which we then distill into a grape spirit. We then add our botanicals and then distill again to finally create our gin. So it's a pretty significantly longer process to kind of taking a neutral spirit, adding botanicals with a single distillation, working all the way from raw material. You've got the fermentation, the 2 distillations, but you're able to control the kind of quality of that spirit all the way through, and you can taste that. It's got this amazing kind of rich, oily texture, and the botanical recipe is really designed to be as kind of nice and punchy in a G&T, but super, super balanced. So it works really beautifully in some delicious cocktails. So we've got a little video showing the kind of production of Hike Gin, which is really nice to see the grapes and what it is that we do with them, which I think we should play now. And I'll be back when that's done. See you shortly.
We import grapes from 13 countries around the world, and as part of our quality commitment, surplus gets produced in the production. I'm passionate about using every grape. They were all produced with love, and they need to be finished with love. So what do we do with 166 million surplus table grapes? We came up with an ingenious solution, along with Foxhole Spritz, to produce a unique product called Hike Gin.
Essentially, the juice inside the grape is the same as the stuff that you're eating and has these amazing characteristics and flavours which we can pull through our production process. We fill a really good gap there because we can come in and work with these suppliers and dramatically reduce the amount of surplus that they have, repurposing it essentially and turning it into something that's so delicious, so unique, without compromise.
So yeah, that's the little video on how Hike is made. Hope you enjoyed it. We've got a cocktail, one of our signature serves, which is the Hike Spritz, which is just perfect for the summer. It's just this beautiful kind of refreshing drink, lots of ice, nice and cold. And Ben from our team here at Foxhole Spritz is going to take you through how to make that now.
Hi guys, hope you're all well. My name's Ben from Foxhole Spritz, and I'm going to take you through a really simple cocktail that you can make at home using our fantastic Hike Gin, which you'll all be trying today. So without further ado, this is how you make a Hike Spritz. We're going to take a wine glass and add some ice. Just give that a little stir just to chill the glass down, because the drink will stay colder in a nice cold glass. We're going to add 35 ml of Hike Gin. Add to that 20 ml of Elderflower cordial, just to add a little bit of sweetness and florality to the cocktail. About 75 ml or a small glass worth of sparkling rosé. And about 50 ml, a little splash of soda water just to lengthen it out a little bit. We're going to give that a little stir just to mix all the ingredients. And then we're going to garnish it with a little bit of lemon zest and some fresh thyme. We're just going to pop that in there. And it really is as simple as that. That is the Hike Spritz. Thank you.
Thanks, Ben. Looks absolutely delicious. It looks so refreshing on a nice summer's day, sitting in the garden. It's been really wonderful to speak to everybody today. I'm going to sign one of our miniatures for a lucky winner, who will also be receiving one of these really cool Foxhole Spirits badges and one of our tote bags. All the best to everybody, and happy gin drinking. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Richard Harbin. I'm the Challenge and Endurance Events Manager for Garden House Hospice Care. My role is to not only organise events to raise funds for the hospice, but also encourage and support those people in the community to organise their own events for the hospice too. Working with Cambridge Wines is a really exciting opportunity to not only have a great and fun evening, but also raise awareness of and valuable funds for Garden House Hospice Care. It's really important these events take place so that we can continue to provide the excellent care and support to the communities of North Hertfordshire, Stevenage and South Bedfordshire. Cambridge Wines and Garden House Hospice Care have the same outlooks on life. We want to provide a really excellent quality of care and support to our customers. We also have a really professional outlook on how we organise our events. So please support this big Hertfordshire gin tasting session. Have a great, fun and safe evening, and also in doing so raise those valuable funds for Garden House Hospice Care. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm Andrew and welcome to Fisher's Gin in Aldborough. This is our new distillery and we're going to show you around. Thank you very much for supporting the Garden Hospice. Thank you very much for being our first ever guests at the new site. Go on. Before we go in, it's very important that you meet our beagles. This is Harry and this is Scotch. And Harry and Scotch have been living here since March, but we'll probably have to vacate when we open for tours shortly. First of all, I'd like to show you the coastal room. This is where we're going to start our tastings. You'll be welcomed here with a real gin and tonic before we show you how Fisher's Gin is made. So let's start with our still, Watson, which was completed in March. And we're going to go down in a minute and I will show you how you reuse it. Right, now we're downstairs in the still room, and this is our 450 litre still, Watson. Watson was made in Scotland, and we took delivery of him in March. To make Fisher's Gin, we put all our botanicals in a muslin bag, which I'm going to show you in a second. But they go in there overnight, the day before we distill, and they'll sit in there for at least 12 hours before the stills boil up. A typical run on Watson takes 6 to 7 hours. And this is the receiver where all our finished spirit ends up. Right, here we are on the banks of the River Ald, a few hundred yards behind the distillery. I'm here with Ben, and he is collecting some sea purslane. This is a nice salty botanical, quite similar to Marsh Samphire. Pretty abundant now, as you can see. Anything we don't use this summer, we freeze, and we'll use for distilling during the winter. So here we are in the Botanical Room. Here is the muslin bag, which we fill with our Fisher's Botanicals and a selection of traditional dry gin botanicals. Then here is our distiller, and Ben's going to talk to you a little bit about our British botanicals.
Sure. So I'm going to start at this end. We have 6 in all. These are the 6 that really differentiate Fisher's from everybody else. There are 9 quite classical ones, your juniper and cardamom and corianders that go into pretty much all gins, but these are the ones that we have chosen specifically for our recipe. These are gathered for us by a botanist, James Firth. And I'm going to start at this end because these are the dried roots. The rest are fresh. So this is the dried root of the spignal plant. This probably is the most aromatic of the lot of all our botanicals. In comparison, much finer roots of the woodhaven plant. These were harvested by my fair hands, in fact. This is Bog Myrtle, so we're into the realms of the more fresh stuff. This is taken straight off the plant. We use the kernel, the leaf, stem and everything. It all goes in. Rock Samphire, again, everything. The fleshy leaves and also the seed heads, they all go in, they all contribute to the flavour that we want. This is some sea purslane, picked just this morning on the banks of the River All, just a few hundred yards away. These will flesh out a bit later in summer. It's a bit early in the season. I just wanted to go and see how they're getting on. But these leaves will flesh out and give a much more salty, slincy kind of flavour that we're after. And this is Marsh Samphire. It doesn't thaw out particularly well from the freezer. This is a little bit left from last year. But you'll most likely have had it before on restaurant plates for alongside fish and things like that. But it all goes in as you see it, all into the muslin bag, into the pot, and Fisher's gin comes out the other end.
At Fisher's, we like to start the day with a bracing swim in the North Sea.
Oh, that was refreshing. Now we're going to show you how to make a hearty seaside cocktail. Perfect to restore yourself after sweat. So, this is our take on a red snapper, which is very similar to a Bloody Mary, except made with gin. It will taste like a Bloody Mary, but have the nice herbal kick of Fisher's. There's something missing here.
Right, as you can see, it's a little bit windy outside, so we've come indoors and we're going to make the Fisher's Gin Red Snapper, which is just like a Bloody Mary, but with a Fisher's Gin snap in the tail. I prepared enough ingredients for 2, so if you're on your own, you get a second one. I'm going to start by putting a bit of ice in these 2 nice Fisher's mugs, so we can take these out onto the beach afterwards without the risk of any breakages. And here we've got a very simple supermarket bought tomato juice with nothing else added. Start with a double shot of Fisher's Gin and do 1 more as we're 2. So that's 100 ml. Second alcoholic ingredient is sherry. So I put 2 shots of Amontillado sherry, which is the slightly sweeter, darker one. Then Leon Perrins, quite important to use a lot. I use a shot of that. Tabasco, a bit like a normal Bloody Mary, quite essential. Our little secret ingredient is the brine from some jalapeno peppers. Lemon juice, it's getting rather full. Salt and pepper. Give this a good stir. As you can see, we use quite a lot of Leon Perrins, Tabasco and brine. It's quite nice to see them measured out, because if you don't have a lot of spice, this will be quite bland. And when that's stirred, I'm just going to pour it over ice. You see that's got almost a nice sort of brown colour to it. There we are, 2 Fisher's Red Snappers. Thank you very much. Thank you again, everyone, for joining us on our virtual tour, and thank you for supporting the Garden House Hospice. It's my great pleasure to put a little squiggle on the back of one of these labels, and whoever gets this label is going to win a distillery tour for 4 people whenever they like. And on she goes. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
My name's Hayley. I'm a senior healthcare assistant at Garden House Hospice. At Garden House Hospice, we provide palliative end-of-life care to patients within the community. A lot of our patients are now choosing to remain at home for the final days of life. So we go in and provide up to 4 calls a day to help with their personal care, medication, supporting the families. Supporting the families is a big part of the care that we give to the patients. Some come on with 3 months of life and some within the final days or even hours. COVID has made a massive impact on us because we can't be as supportive and touchy as we would normally be, because we're behind the masks as well. People can't always see our smile or our empathy coming through, so there's different ways of having to show that we're there for them and support them, where we'd normally give them a hug and hold their hand. We're not able to do that so much, which is really difficult. But it's a really, really rewarding job. It's really, really needed in the community, and the amount of people that benefit from it, not only the patients, but the relatives, is absolutely massive. So please make a donation and allow us to continue to give end-of-life care to life-limiting illnesses.
Hello, I'm Emily and I am co-founder and distiller for Roundwood Gin. So we are based just outside of Huntingdon in North Cambridgeshire, and we launched our gin 2 years ago in May 2018. So the idea to start our distillery really came from me wanting a big change of lifestyle. I was a software engineer for a really big company and basically was a little bit sick of my long commute and also feeling like a really small piece in a big puzzle. So craving a bit more variety, and already with a clear love of gin, the idea of starting our own distillery was born. So alongside my fiance Rupert, we spent the best part of 2 years renovating our brick barn and turning it into our beautiful distillery. So we are clearly based quite rurally and wanted to kind of encapsulate that into our brand and into our gin. And actually at home here we live just to the side of a huge 180 acre woodland, and our distillery is based just the other side of that, so we're always going round the wood, hence the name Roundwood. So we have incorporated a lot of inspiration from our surroundings into both the brand and the gin itself. We have got some really lovely sort of illustrations on the bottle of nice wildlife animals, butterflies, woodpecker. There's also a hare on this bottle, which is a little fact for you. the hare here on our big bottle, and then on the mini bottles which you've all got, there's a baby hare, so we've got our little leveret, which is very cute. So we wanted to encapsulate some of the flavours into the gin itself as well. So we played around with kind of over 100 different botanicals and distilled and trialled each of them individually. I then basically sat down and learnt them all by smell and taste to begin to pick them apart, and then also to be able to go back and taste other gins to start to identify what flavours you're tasting. And it really forms a kind of strong starting point. From there, started blending different distillates to come up with our recipe. And actually, it was always the aim of the recipe to be quite uncomplicated. We didn't want to be adding in hundreds of different botanicals just to say they're there. And I think part of the most difficult things really of developing a recipe is knowing when to stop. So we've kept the number quite small. We've got 7 botanicals. We've obviously got your juniper in there, nice big punch of juniper, but we've got some quite interesting flavours in there as well. So the first one, which is a bit more unique, is we distill with a lot of elderberries. So elderberries, which grow roundabout locally, were one of the really big surprises actually when we started doing our botanical trials. So I think it was a surprise mainly because I would never consider it a berry that you would sort of pick off a tree and eat, but actually once it's distilled, it's got a really nice sort of gentle sweetness to it and a nice warm round fruity flavour. So it brings quite a lot of that characteristics to the gin, which makes for a really nice spirit. So obviously another thing that's important is how it's made. We distill in batches of less than 100 bottles at a time. We've got a beautiful copper still, which came over from Germany the same weekend as the Beast from the East, if you can remember that. So our pipes were frozen. It was a bit of a rocky start, but it's been all good since. So how would we recommend serving our gin? We're kind of fans of a real classic G&T, and it works really well as a classic G&T. So I'll make one of those here now. So first off, you want to fill your glass with loads of ice. Give it a good swirl around, get it nice and cold. And there we are. I'm going to pour us a nice large gin. There we go. Now, we usually go for a premium Indian tonic, just to keep it really nice and classic, and because it works really, really well. Let's add a little splash of that in there. Then we come on to the garnish. So you might be aware of the kind of rule of thumb around garnishing with citrus, that you would usually go for a citrus fruit that also is in the botanical blend of the gin itself as well. So we distill with a lot of orange flavours in the gin, so we garnish with orange as well. But rather than using a nice sort of fat slice or a wedge of orange, which can overpower it, we just are going to use a little bit of the peel. So I'm going to just got this lovely sort of channel knife, which does really pretty thin twists, but you can just use a normal peeler as well. And then just to finish it off really nicely, we like to garnish with a sprig of fresh thyme. So fresh thyme adds a really wonderful, a fresh herbal aroma that works beautifully with orange, balances the gin really, really nicely, and works really well. So our gin is a dry gin, so being a dry gin, obviously it can't have any extra sugar or sweetener added after the distillation, but it is certainly a little bit sweeter, and all of that really comes from the elderberries themselves. Also in the gin, we've got a small amount of elderflower. We vapour infuse the elderflower, so it really picks up the subtleties of the flavours, and because of that, it actually works really nicely in a gin and tonic with an elderflower tonic. This is super refreshing, very delicious, easy to drink, and a real nice long one for the summer. So an elderflower tonic as well works really well for a slight twist on the gin and tonic. So we do tend to recommend a classic G&T serve, but actually it's a really wonderful gin that works well in cocktails too. It's really versatile. It's got that nice fruity element to the gin, so it works in quite fruity cocktails as well, but it's still got plenty of those real ginny flavours, so it holds its own. So a cocktail which I'm going to make for you, or show how to make, is a really nice summery one. So we're going to make an Elderflower Collins, which is quite simple. It's equal parts, so we've got equal parts of gin. We've got, I'm just doing 25ml of gin, 25ml of elderflower liqueur, 25ml of sugar syrup. You can, of course, always make this rather than buying it. And then you've got 25ml of lemon juice. And I'm just going to shake that up with plenty of ice. If you don't have a shaker, you can do this just stirring in a glass. Give it a good old shake. Then we're going to get our Collins glass. Fill that with ice. My ice has melted a little bit. And then I'm going to just strain that over there. And we're going to top up with a splash then of soda water, sparkling water, just to make that a really nice long drink. Normally garnish this then with lemon, but I've just used my last lockdown lemon in the drink. So instead I'm just going to add a really nice big sprig of fresh mint, and that is a really nice refreshing cocktail. Cheers. So I've got a little mini bottle here which I'm going to add my signature to, my name. And whoever receives the little bottle with my name on the back, we are going to send a bottle of our sloe gin. So last winter we produced a limited batch of sloe gin. This has been aged in red wine casks, so it's got a rich, really complex flavour, but delicious sipped either neat or a little splash in the top of your glass of fizz works really, really well too. So it's been lovely to introduce myself, talk a bit about Roundwood, and I really hope you have a lovely evening tasting your gins whilst supporting a really wonderful charity. So thank you.
Hello, I'm Carla Pillsworth, Director of Income Generation at Garden House Hospice Care. Here at the hospice, we provide vital end-of-life care to people living in our local community. It costs us £5 million a year to provide our services, and as we are a charity, we rely on local people and organisations holding fundraising events for us and making donations. Our shops are absolutely vital to the money that we raise, and without our 12 high street shops, we just wouldn't be able to continue to provide the care that we do for people living in our local area. Thank you.
Hi folks, I'm here today to introduce you to Puddingstone Distillery, the home of Campfire Gin, and in particular our Old Tom, which features in the wonderful pack that you will have received. Obviously this is all part of a fantastic project brought together by Cambridge Wines of Royston to provide some much needed money for the Garden House Hospice, who in these difficult times are obviously finding it very tricky to raise money for all the valuable work that they do. Just a quick bit about us, us being myself, Ben, and my wife Kate. We are the founders of Puddingstone Distillery, the first ever gin distillery in Hertfordshire. We opened the doors back in 2016 after 2 years of research, exams, and literally immersing ourselves in gin. Well, I say immersing, maybe just consuming lots of it. Anyway, we are going to talk specifically about our Old Tom, and we've been asked to present a cocktail as well. If you don't manage to take all this down, don't worry. The thing that we are going to present to you, I say the thing, the wonderful shrub that we're going to create for you, features on our website, puddingstonedistillery.com. All the details to make shrubs and expand your cocktail knowledge. We started off from very humble beginnings with a tiny little copper still. We then bought a slightly larger one, and then eventually when we opened our site back in actually August 2016, we installed 2 wonderful stainless steel stills, called Amelia and Isabella. They were named after two great female adventurers. Our brand ethos is very much about the outdoors. Our bottle is one of the lightest weight bottles in its category. That means a low carbon footprint in terms of production, manufacturing, distribution, and obviously recycling. These little seals that you see around the tops of bottles, ours isn't plastic. It's made from a biodegradable wood cellulose. And alongside the Campfire range, a lot of the projects that we do are in collaboration with wildlife and conservation trusts. So we're helping to make the environment a better place. The Campfire Gin range is based around classic gin styles. So we have a London Dry, the Old Tom, a barrel aged and a navy strength. Each of them have very, very different characteristics, and all of them are award winning. So let's talk cocktails. The Old Tom has got a really lovely, big, robust flavour profile and an AB of 45%, which means it stands up really well when paired with other ingredients. If you're looking for a very simple serve, you just want to mix it with a tonic, then we recommend either a plain Indian, Sicilian lemon from Franklin & Sons, or pear and cardamom from 12 Below. What we're going to do today though is present a recipe called a cherry balsamic shrub. Now, a shrub is a very, very old style of drink, and it comprises of fruit, sugar, and vinegar. The types that you use vary massively. For this ingredients though, we are going to use cherry, we're going to use a light muscovado, and we're going to use balsamic vinegar. There is also going to be the addition of some cracked black peppercorns, and that creates a syrup that then goes into the cocktail. Now this takes a while, so we're not going to go through the actual full making process. As I say, all the details are on our website. However, basically what you do is you take your fruit and your sugar, typically about 400 grams of each, smash them all together, leave them in the fridge overnight. 24 hours later, you should find that that whole combination has changed in its consistency. And you should be able to squeeze it through a cheesecloth to separate any solids from liquids. Measure the amount of liquid that you've got left, and then 25% of that is going to be the amount of vinegar that you slowly start adding. And I always use that as a starting point. Other recipes will suggest a lot more vinegar, but I find it gets a bit overpowering, a bit sharp. You're looking for a balance between the fruit flavour, the sweetness of the sugar, and that kind of sharp characteristic of the vinegar. Now once you've established that, you can set that to one side. They will last in the fridge for absolutely ages. They will probably last longer than your fridge, to be quite honest. Now this particular cocktail, very, very simple, and what we are going to do is a recipe for two people. So you want to start off with a cocktail can. If you haven't got one, just a glass beaker, anything will do. Chuck some ice in there, and we're going to use 75 ml of the Campfire Old Tom gin. So we'll pop that in, and then 25 ml of your shrub. Now give that a stir. We want to get it nicely chilled down. We want to get a bit of dilution in there. Chilling is really, really key when you're creating cocktails. And for this one, because it's a longer drink, we're going to make sure that we've got plenty of ice in our glass. Now if you've got a Hawthorn strainer, then you can use that to hold back the unmelted ice and pour half of it into your glass. You want to top that up then with some plain tonic, and if you have some, then pop in a lovely sticky maraschino cherry. And there we go, a Old Tom cherry balsamic shrub. Absolutely lovely, a beautifully refreshing summertime drink. So there's just one more thing for me to do now, and that is basically, obviously, a bit of tidying up. And we've also been asked to sign off one of the miniature bottles. Good luck, thank you for supporting this amazing charity, and cheers. See you soon. Actually, I'm going to take that with me.
Hello, my name's Isabel and I'm a volunteer at Garden House Hospice. Every week I volunteer at the gym at the hospice in the Hawthorne Centre. Patients go there on the advice of their doctors to try and regain some strength, stamina and mobility following their illness. They're first seen by a physiotherapist who then give them a set of exercises to do. My role is to support them in those exercises. I encourage them, I help them, I chat to them while they're doing them. But more than that, we are a really supportive team. I think they gain as much from their post-coffee chat as they do sometimes from the exercises they're doing. But it's really worthwhile to see the gains they make both in confidence and in strength, stamina and mobility after a few weeks. They're often really, really nervous when they start, and after a few weeks they feel part of the group and the community. It's wonderful to see. As a result of my role there, I was asked to help when the hospice was setting up a hub in Royston. We offer seated exercises for those people it's appropriate for, but also just a place for people to come and have a coffee or a chat and undertake activities such as crafting, and we have a notoriously difficult quiz that's set by one of the attendees each week. It's great fun, and after just a few months we'd established a really friendly, strong group, and they really get a lot out of the weekly meetings. People often ask me why I volunteer at the hospice, and isn't it a really depressing place to volunteer? Well, that's definitely not the case. Laughter is always ringing out in the gym, and it's a place that I really look forward to going to every week. If you have any spare time, I'd really urge you to get involved too.
Hi guys, welcome to the Copper in the Clouds Distillery. I'm James Grant, the founder of the company, and I am very pleased to be introducing you to our brand new lychee and raspberry gin. We're kind of launching this gin with this tasting, so you are among the first people in the country to try it, so I'm very much hoping you enjoy it. I believe this is your first flavoured gin of the day, so up to this point you've just been having dry gins, so this is going to taste certainly a little bit different to all the others you've had. Just to give you a very quick rundown as to where we are, we're at our distillery, which is in central Hertfordshire, kind of near Hartford. We're in a converted tractor workshop on a working arable farm. So we got the keys to this place about 2 years ago. It was at the time a tractor workshop, so we had to do the full conversion to turn it into a gin distillery, which was a lot of fun and a lot of hard work. But I'm very pleased to kind of have it as we do today, because it's all been done to our kind of spec. All of the gin that we make, and certainly the one you've got in your hands at the moment, is made in this 200 litre copper pot still behind us. It is a tiny still compared to kind of modern day commercial gin distilleries, but we like it. This size gives us an insane amount of control over every distillation. It makes its batches of about 200 litres, so it's a really nice size to be able to work with. You know, if commercial stills are kind of 1, 2, 5, 10,000 litres, you know, it's difficult when there's that much liquid to kind of really stay on top of it all, whereas with this, we're really able to control every kind of ounce of liquid that comes off the end of the still. So, just to intro you a little bit into the gin, I've got some lychees and raspberries in front of me here. With a flavoured gin, how it differs to a dry gin is that with a dry gin you put all of your botanicals in with your alcohol into the still, run it through the still, cut it down with water, and you have your finished distilled gin. With a flavoured gin, you create that same gin recipe, but once you've finished the distillation, then you kind of further add things to it. In this case, we let the spirit, when it comes off the still, about 80%, we cut it down to about 60% with some water, and then we rest it over fresh lychees for a week. I don't know how familiar you are all with lychees, but they're kind of spiky and orange on the outside, and then they've got this, the flesh is white, very sweet, almost perfumed in its scent, and then you've got this big black stone in the middle which you get rid of. But yeah, so once the spirit, once we cut the spirit down to about 60%, it rests on this lychee for about a week. And then the other ingredient is the raspberries. We have a farm partner over in Essex that's a soft fruit farm. They basically juice their lychees, raspberries even, strip it of the fibre, so they filter all the fibre out, so they deliver it to us like a not from concentrate clarified juice, which we blend into the gin that's been resting on the lychees. And we then add a tiny little bit of natural flavouring just to give those flavours a boost. And then that's it. We don't add any sugar to it, which is quite rare for a flavoured gin. Normally there's a little bit of fruit and a lot of sugar. We've added no sugar to it. I mean, there is a tiny little bit of residual sugar in the bottle just because there's sugar in the lychees. There's a little bit of sugar in the raspberry juice, but certainly it's very, very, very low sugar for a flavoured gin. So you kind of don't feel guilty about drinking this one. I'd recommend trying it on its own first. We're obviously going to do the perfect serve, we're going to go on to doing the cocktail, but certainly to begin with, let's just try it on its own. If you have a glass like this, fantastic. A wider rim will allow you to give it a sniff, and it's just nice to be able to have a stem. If you've got a very long glass, you're going to struggle, but it doesn't really matter what you try with, to be honest. So just pour yourself a little bit, it's enough for a sip. You will notice it is very sweet. It's got a lovely sweet flavour, smell. Again, that's just the natural kind of sweet flavours of the fruits rather than it being a sugar-laden thing. You'll immediately should be able to smell the juniper berries. I mean, it's very important for us for all of our flavoured gins that they actually taste like gins, which isn't the case with lots of flavoured gins on the markets. To make the gin that lies underneath this, we didn't just use one of our existing gins and run with it. Because the pronounced lychee and raspberry flavours, we actually had to put significantly more juniper in this recipe to make sure that the juniper kind of wasn't just squashed down by the raspberry and lychee flavours. So this is very much still a proper gin. You can smell and taste the juniper, which is kind of like the pine notes in this. But then of course you do have the lychee and the raspberry are big flavours in there as well. So it's a nice kind of harmony between those three flavours. But then we've also got some really nice fresh ingredients into the gin recipe. So we've got garden mint and whole Sicilian lemons, which just give it a really nice fresh undertone to the drink. So, have a sip. Hopefully you're getting lots of red berry flavours. You might get some of the kind of perfumed lychee flavours, and then you've also got those lovely juniper notes in there as well. So. I hope you've enjoyed your first sip. It's only going to get better as it gets mixed into gin and tonics and cocktails and things, so we will move swiftly on to that. Nice. So this is, we've already got a lychee product actually in the company. We've got a lychee gin liqueur, which has historically been one of our best-selling products, but we wanted a full-strength proper gin, and we wanted to kind of jazz it up a bit, so not just lychee on its own, we also wanted to incorporate some different flavours, and raspberry sort of won all of the tests we did. So raspberry and lychee was the one we've been working on. It's been in development since about January. It's taken significantly longer than we thought it would, but we're very pleased with the results, so hopefully you like it as well. Perfect serve time. We're going to do standard gin and tonic. I think you've got Folkingtons. I have Fentimans. Doesn't matter. They're both lovely soft tonic waters. You want it packed full of ice. Gin and tonic should always be cold, so don't be shy. Hopefully you've got lots of good quality ice somewhere near you. We're going to want 50 ml of the gin. I know you've only got 50 ml total in your packs, but maybe you can make half gin and tonics or something. 50 ml of gin, and then we're going to do 150 ml of Fentimans tonic. And then for a garnish, we've got mint and raspberries. It's roughly 150 ml of this, doesn't have to be too precise, I wouldn't ever measure it in. Because we've got this the fresh raspberry juice blended into it, gives it a lovely pink hue when it becomes a gin and tonic, so it looks really nice as well as hopefully tasting very nice. For the mint, if you can, get one of the sprigs on the top, just because they look prettier than kind of random leaves floating, and just zhuzh it up a little bit to try and release some of the oils in the mint. When you're sipping it, you'll get the mint close to your nose and you'll definitely be able to smell those. You want 2 little raspberries, put more in if you want. I wouldn't go too crazy, but certainly you can add a few more than 2 if you are that way inclined. Mine are all stuck together because they were frozen before being in that little pot. And there we have it, that's the perfect serve. Cheers. I'm not going to drink all of that because I need to drive home very soon. I will give that to one of the people over here. So that is the perfect serve. Best way to have that is definitely just as a gin and tonic on a hot day, plenty of ice. hopefully you've really enjoyed that. I'm just going to talk to you quickly as well about the artwork on our bottles. You've probably noticed they're kind of quite unique and even loud. A guy called Manasseh Machado has done all the artwork on our gin company since day one. Me and him used to work in a Japanese restaurant in Sydney together, and in honesty I never knew he drew at the time. A couple of years later I was looking for somebody to design some of the gin bottles for me. I'm definitely not got a creative mind. I would never be able to put something like this together. I give Manasseh the worst, terriblest, most shit briefs, and he comes out of gold every time. So he's just got a very creative mind. This is his style, sort of quite cartoony. I have total faith that, I'll tell him what's in the gin and he'll come out with something. So by the looks of it, he's drawn a little bit of inspiration from Kung Fu Panda here, which I'm totally fine with. And we've also got a prize to give out later on. One of you is going to win a signed print of the whole artwork that made up this release. So that's kind of printed on nice art paper and framed, and will be signed by Manasseh, the artist, and delivered to whoever wins the competition. But I'll explain more about how you've won that in a minute. I guess let's do the cocktail. Let's do the cocktail quickly. I don't know, you can build this cocktail, so by build I mean you don't have to shake it. However, if you do have a cocktail shaker at home, you should use it. But again, if you don't, not to panic, I know not everyone has lots of cocktail equipment handy. You're going to want a tall glass, lots of ice. You've got all the ingredients you need in your accompanying booklet. So have a look at that. We're going to be making the pink yogurt Collins. I think we've got the name of it. So I'm just going to use this Yeo Valley. It's natural, organic pot set yogurt. I'd use this rather than like a fruit yogurt or anything else. You can use Greek yogurt if you want. It's not a huge amount of difference. So we just want 2 heaped teaspoons of this to start with. I know yogurt in cocktails is a little bit out there, but trust me, it's delicious as a long drink. I know that you can get some if you're sort of don't eat dairy. There's some dairy, non-dairy, the soy yogurts and stuff. They'll work absolutely fine in place of normal yogurt if you don't want to eat yogurt. We're going to use 50 ml of gin. Now this, with the combination here, this has got lemon juice in it as well, and the combination of the lactic acid in the yogurt and then the citric acid in the lemons is delicious. I'm a huge fan of sour cocktails, so this is like a long sour cocktail. If you like those kind of things as well, I'm sure you'll really like this. We're going to use 25 ml of freshly squeezed lemon juice. Here's some I juiced earlier. Pop that in, and then you just want 10 ml of sugar syrup. I knocked this up really quickly this morning in a pan. This is just 2 to 1, 2 parts sugar, 1 part water. Make, I don't know, 200 ml at a time. It'll keep in your fridge for a couple of weeks if you regularly make cocktails at home. So just 10 ml of that. And then we're also going to use some of the juice from the Maraschino cherries that hopefully you have. I'd highly recommend these cherries. They're Luxardo, you may be familiar with. They make some liqueurs. But these are Maraschino cherries, very different to the glacé cherries you'd find in the supermarket. They are quite expensive, but they're very worth it. The juice that the cherries sit in is almost as good as the cherries themselves. They're really dark cherries, certainly not the bright red cherries you'd normally get. So you want 2 teaspoons, so about 10 ml of this cherry syrup. It's in the jar. And then we're going to use these, I'll set them aside for the moment, we're going to use those as a garnish for the drink as well. So when you've done that, you just want to pack this cocktail shaker full of ice. I can't recommend enough to give this a really vigorous shake. We're trying to sort of wake up all the ingredients and turn it into a cocktail, not give it a half-hearted run. If you really give it some welly, you'll get the liquid in here down to about -12, and it's a fantastic temperature to drink a cocktail. As the colder the better. We're going to add some other ingredients afterwards, but so far you want everything on the list you've got in front of you other than the soda water. About 10 seconds will do. I'll get rid of that. What we're going to do now is, I haven't got a cocktail strainer. We're going to use this just to, I'm not going to put any ice in the glass yet. You're going to use this strainer. If you've got one of these, it's like a tea strainer, I'd use it just because you'll get quite a lot of little flakes of ice in there that you don't really want or need. And also this will get rid of any of the foam on top. And some cocktails you really want the foam, in this one it's not really important. So when that's done, We want to add a bit of soda water, and again I'm doing this before the ice just so this mixes in. If you put the cocktail on top of the ice and then add the soda water just sits on top, and then at the end, after you've drunk from the bottom using a straw, you just have the melted ice and the soda water at the bottom, which isn't very nice. So you don't want much of this, maybe 30 mils, 40 tops. And then some nice ice cubes. When that's done for the garnish, just got a nice strip of lemon peel. I've got this lovely big lemons that we use for all of our gins that have lemon in them. And then we're going to use 2 of the cherries from the jar. Oh, 3 there. 2 of those. Do this if you want, mine's going to disappear otherwise. Sit those on top. And then if you need straws, I mean long drinks, typically I prefer straws with long drinks because I have sensitive teeth. So that is the Pink Yogurt Collins. Give it a go if you can. I know it's a little bit complicated, apologies for that, but it is a beautiful cocktail if you want to give it a go. So that kind of concludes our tasting. That's the trying the gin on its own. Hopefully you've learned a little bit about it. I'm very keen to hear any feedback you have. As I said, you are pretty much the first group of people to be trying this gin, so yeah, do let me know what you think about it. Just wanted to say before we go any further that we very much need to give a big thanks to the in-house tasting team. They've put all of this together. All of 100% of the profits for this are going straight to the hospice, to the Garden House Hospice, who are in quite desperate need of some help. As everyone's probably aware, the coronavirus pandemic has put quite strain on charities because lots of their normal income streams, especially this time of year when there's lots of summer events and things like that, have just ground to a halt. So it's really nice that when people are spending more time at home, they can get these kits sent out to them, and hopefully this has been a bit entertaining, but also it's helping the charities bring in some much needed cash. So thank you all, all of you taking part in this. Thank you very much for joining your sets, and rest assured all of the profit from those sets is going straight to those charities. So yeah, thank you. And for the prize, so we've got a lovely art print of the original artwork for this. I have here, this is one of the paper wraps that go around the miniatures, so we've got to make 300 or so of these. The miniatures are incredibly fiddly to make, so we kind of have these and wrap them around, and it's all hand done, which is nice but fiddly. But anyway, I am going to sign one of these, and whoever has the one with the signature on it, you just need to send a shot of that picture to the in-house tasting team, and we will organise to get this art print sent out to you, signed by Manasseh, the artist. So I'm going to do that now. And that's it. Thank you very much for joining us. I know that you will have the option to buy all of the bottles from the tasting today through the in-house tasting website, and I know that any bottle sales related to this as well, there's also extra money that goes to the charities. Spend as much as you'd like on the gins. Any of you enjoyed today, I very much encourage you to buy a bottle, because I think it's £2.50 from each bottle sale is going to the charity, and something like that. Yeah, I'm sure you've got the details in front of you somewhere. But yeah, it's all for a good cause. So thank you very much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this part of the tasting. Cheers.